The Du Bois County Council verbally approves extra money for the County Corrections Center. Kerry Schneider brings us his weekly report from the Humane Society, and Kurt Guxell has highlights from softball sectional opening games in sports. Those stories and much more are up next here on 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. In your news, last night the Du Bois County Council made a verbal commitment to give $33,500 to help pay costs for a current part-time maintenance employee for the County Corrections Center, as well as for needed repairs and maintenance. During the meeting, Du Bois County Director of Community Corrections, J.P. Weissite, told the council that for most of the 10 years that the Corrections Center's current location has been open, funding has not been a problem. However, that has changed within the last year or so as collections revenue has been on a sharp decline. According to numbers presented to the council by Weissite, the Corrections Center is currently seeing $7,000 to $9,000 in revenue lost per month due to the lack of collections. Weissite says the collection rates were high enough for several years, but due to lack of payment of those collections in the last year or two, that has changed.
For years, the collections rates were high enough that we had no problems as far as going into the red or even getting near that. We had plenty of funds coming in. We were well into the black all the time, within tolerable levels with the Department of Corrections, who holds us to a pretty fine line as far as not making too much money or they want to reduce our grant. But we've slowly slipped a little bit over time. We're not collecting from our vendors the way we used to, not that we haven't tried.
Weissite says the County Corrections Center has garnished the wages of those in the program that aren't paying to try to collect, but the Corrections Center has increasingly wound up in second or third in line behind child support or other garnishments that a person on work release has had against their wages. He says the Corrections Center has applied for an additional $150,000 grant from the Indiana Department of Corrections to help the center. The center currently gets $400,000 per year from the Indiana Department of Corrections, but Weissite says more money is becoming available due to a new rule requiring counties to keep certain level felons at home. He says the additional money, if the Department of Corrections grants that money, would help to offset a lot of the costs, mainly those costs related to health insurance for those in the Corrections Center.
That money, the $150,000, was meant to target health insurance, and we hired a new case manager to do treatment programs. We call her a facilitator. So we added some project income expenses because of that, and it's designed to help offset that, and primarily health insurance.
Weissite told the council that the County Corrections Center hopes to hear an answer on the additional funding in a week or two. The center, with 102 beds, is the 6th largest corrections center in the state of Indiana. Also last night, the council held a discussion amongst its members about the recent decision by the county commissioners to delay any work towards building a second access road to Du Bois County Park for emergency purposes. County Council President Greg Kendall says the delay came about due to multiple issues surrounding the road and its construction needing to be resolved before any decision can be made on moving forward with the project. The Jasper City Council chambers were nearly at full capacity last night for the monthly Utility Service Board meeting. The main point of focus fell on the Beaver Lake spillway report. Brian McKenna, the head engineer from Christopher B. Burke Engineering, was present to report on the concerns and differences of opinion surrounding the water level fluctuations of Beaver Lake. In McKenna's report, all indications are that according to his measurements, the water level of the existing spillway is very close, within an inch of the old spillway. This report puzzled people who have lived on the lake for many years. As Wayne Sheeter, chairman of the Utility Service Board, explains, there are many theories as to why the lake levels seem much lower.
The patrons who spoke, the customers who spoke about what they've noticed, they seem to indicate that the sediment in the east part of the lake, or in one finger of the lake, is much higher, and so the depth of the lake is a lot lower, not necessarily the elevation. We're going to continue to take input and revisit this, probably have water committee meeting later in the summer, and then see if there's any kind of action that we can and need to take.
Sheeter says a possible solution would be to dredge Beaver Lake, but he said that would cost a considerable amount of money. Towards the end of the meeting, Sheeter addressed the council and the public in attendance concerning the situation with the Jasper Clean Energy Center project. In a statement made by Sheeter in last night's meeting, he stated, quote unquote, "The city's decision to lease the power plant to Twisted Oak Corporation to develop the Jasper Clean Energy Project continues to be a topic of discussion and misinformation, including the information being disseminated by the group opposing the project." Sheeter's comments stemmed from a recently released article by co-authors Dr. Christian Schrader-Frischette and B.N. Kunicki of the University of Notre Dame, which included several errors that the city of Jasper identified. Sheeter says this meeting was an appropriate time to bring all of this to light.
It seems to have some inaccuracies in it, and we needed to address those. I had been asked by members of the press, I had been asked by some citizens, to respond to that. But I also felt it was a time to make some statements about the ongoing litigation and also the ongoing things with the opposition group and continued discussion about the Jasper Clean Energy Center.
Sheeter ended the meeting by stating that the Utility Service Board and the City of Jasper will continue to focus on the facts and doing its necessary due diligence concerning this important project. He also said the community of Jasper is encouraged to do their own due diligence regarding this issue. Coming up after the break, Kerry Schneider brings us his weekly report from the Humane Society, plus a cool down on the way in your local forecast, sports with Kurt Gooksell, and Melissa Baxter talks about the upcoming cardboard regatta on Informed. That's all coming up next here on 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.